Hello everybody, this is Trust and Lies with episode 4 of the Custom NPCs tutorial series. This time we'll be going over I call them the AI stats. They're still in the stats tab, but they're more to do with how it reacts to the environment. We have Esfernari with us again.
Hello!
Again, our normals are out, so he'll be venturing into these settings with us.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Alright, we're going to hop into Trust, and I still have, this is the same one from the last episode, and I did mention before in an earlier tutorial that the color of the name depends on the faction. As you see, Esfernari's is still friendly. It's still in the friendly faction, so his is still green. Mine's hostile, so it's in red. Easy to tell them apart. Those are customizable, and we'll get into that later on in a different episode, but I just wanted to explain why we now have two different color names. They kind of match our skins too. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hop in, go to the stats tab, and we're going to go right on the bottom. So, walk speed. That should be self-explanatory, but in case it's not, I'm going to show you the difference. We're going to hop into the AI tab and actually make a move. And we'll go over movement later, but all I did was go into movement and change him to wandering. So now he'll actually walk around. And I changed the walk speed to 10. So once he decides he wants to move.
Is that the max?
I
put mine at 900 and like 9999.
And it probably went back to 10, right?
Nope. I don't know. Hold on, let's see. Edit. Yeah, it went back. Yes, it went back to 10. 10 is the max. You're right.
So you guys just saw Esfernari's NPC walking around. He was walking around pretty fast. I'll go into...
I'm actually going to change mine down to 1.
Oh! GMC. Before he kills me. Alright, so you guys just saw how fast he was moving. Kind of crazy. When they get small, if you make them really small and really fast, they are almost impossible to hit. Now, we have it set to 1, and I know Esfernari's got his running around at 1, I believe.
Yep.
But it's not really moving. I'm going to initiate movement on mine. So get up to him, and he killed me. Alright, so I'm back in here. There we go. You can barely see it, but he is kind of moving. Very, very slowly. If you wanted an NPC that was kind of creepy and just followed you at a really, really slow pace, this would be what you'd want. But it doesn't even take full steps. It just takes like these little baby steps. Not even really worth using that most of the time, unless you actually have a specific need for that. So go ahead and put him back. Put me back in creative so I don't die. Again. Alright. Next we have immune to fire. If you turn this to yes, the NPC will be unaffected by fire, meaning it won't take damage, it won't get knocked back, it can just walk through fire, no problem. It can be set on fire, no problem. If it's on no, it'll react to fire just like you do in game. Can drown. If you have that on yes, if the NPC goes in over his head in water, he will drown just like you will. If you have it on no, they can swim underwater forever. Burns in sun. This is basically if you switch it to undead and then put burns in sun on, you would basically have a zombie NPC. because it would be affected by all the enchantments that affect a zombie, and it would also burn in sunlight just like a regular zombie or skeleton. No, it'll be walking around. If you want to equate it to a mob, it'd walk around in the sunshine like a creeper or a spider. No fall damage, pretty simple. If that's on yes, it'll ignore all fall damage so it can jump off a 200 block high cliff and be fine. If it's on no, it'll take damage proportionate to the fall distance just like you do in game. Next, the next options we have kind of bridge the gap between health and combat. The first one is health regen. This is when the NPC's just wandering around or sitting there. It's not in combat, it's not being attacked, it's not attacking. This is how fast the health will regenerate when that's the situation or the environment that it's in. I haven't played with these because they broke these apart in the newest update because it used to be all one health regeneration setting. But the way it works with some of the other settings is the lower the number, the faster it regenerates. Josh hopped in. He's saying hello, everybody.
Hey, Josh!
Alright, so with health regen, that's whenever it's not in combat. With combat regen, that is how fast the health will regenerate while it's in combat, meaning it's attacking or it's defending. So, by default that's set to 0, meaning the health won't regenerate while it's in combat. You can set that so it's almost impossible to kill. If you wanted, say, a boss that when somebody comes in contact with it, they're meant to die, you can either set their health really high, set their combat options really high, or you can set their combat health regeneration really high so that when they are regenerating health when they're being attacked. So you're basically in essence doing no damage at all. Alright. This one's been pretty short so far, so we'll go ahead and continue into the next set of options, starting with melee options. Go ahead and click edit. This will open up another interface. And this you have a few different options that control the melee combat. Melee strength, that is the number of health points that it takes with each hit. 5 will take 2.5 hearts. So it's based on the same system as the health. So 2 health points is 1 heart. Just remember that. So if we set this to 20, it could kill you in 1 hit. If you didn't have any armor on. If you have armor on, that reduces the amount of damage you take, so that would need to be higher to do a 1-hit kill. Melee range is the number of blocks it can hit you, or you can be away from it and it can still hit you. So right now, it can be a full 2 blocks ahead of me or away from me and still make contact. And that's by default. If I increase this to 10, it could hit me from across the room with melee. Melee speed is next. If we decrease this, the melee speed, it's kind of mislabeled. It should be more of a melee delay, because this is the amount of time between each attack. So the higher number this is, the slower it'll attack. The lower number, the faster it'll attack. If you were to enter in a value of 1, because I believe if you enter in 0, it'll hop back to 1. That means it'll be attacking you practically non-stop. It'll be hitting you every tick or every second.
Rapid fire.
Basically. Alright, next one is knockback. Just like the knockback enchantment, this is how the knockback enchantment level of his melee attacks. So if I put this to 2, that in essence would be him wielding a sword with knockback 2 on it. This can go pretty high. Well, pretty high meaning 4. But 4 will knock you back quite a ways. Let's see. Go ahead and do a test on this. And it's probably going to kill me in one hit. Darn it. Oh. As soon as I get back.
Come back.
Alright, there we go. So, that wasn't a very good example of it because it had so much damage. We're actually going to set this to 0, which you can do. If you set their melee strength to 0, they will punch you and punch you and punch you, and it won't do a thing other than annoy you.
Wow, he is pretty annoying.
Now, if we set it to 1, because it looks like he's not even knocking you back.
Nope.
So we'll set it to 1. And are you in creative?
No, I'm in survival.
Are you in God mode?
No.
Whoa!
Why does he only come after you?
I think you may be in God mode and not realize it.
How do I turn off God mode?
/God.
God mode disabled. Oh, man.
And as you can see, that is a major knockback.
Wow.
You might want to go back into creative.
Ooh, no, this is fun. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and turn the melee strength off. But as you can see, knockback 4 is some extreme knockback. And again, that's scaled, so 0, it won't knock you back at all. 1, it'll knock you back some. 2, knock you back about halfway to that 4 does. And then the final section in the melee options is effects. If you just click on where it says none, by default, it'll hop to fire. And this is basically like a fire enchantment on your sword or your bow, where when it hits you, it'll light you on fire. And the time is the amount of time that the fire burns for. So by default, that's 5 seconds. Then we have poison. Time is the same, and that one is normal. So the lower the value, the shorter the time it is affecting you for. It's not like the melee speed. It actually makes sense. And then we have amplified. No, it's gonna increase the amount of time, but it won't increase the amount of damage you receive. If we turn amplified on, it's like a stacking effect, where the more it hits you, the worse the poison is. And that amplified any of the settings, like the hunger, weakness, slowness, nausea, although blindness, those all have amplified. It all works the same way. But these are all our options. We have fire and poison. We have hunger, which will take down your hunger. We got weakness, slowness, nausea, and I really hate using nausea because the effect it does on the screen actually personally makes me nauseous. So if you are running a server, try and keep that in mind for your people, that some people, it may actually make them sick. So try not to overuse that, and try not to use amplified on that. Because it'll keep making the screen warp more and more and more. And then blindness. With amplification on this one, it gets to a certain point, and then you can't really be much blinder than that. But it's pretty bad. I've used that to mess with some people, and it's pretty fun watching their reactions to not being able to see anything but still being hit. Wither, I'm not too familiar with the wither effect. I believe it's a combination of poison and hunger. But don't quote me on that.
I'm not sure myself.
Just like everything else, same settings. Pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and click done. By default, your mob will only do melee. If you want it to do actual ranged combat, you have to activate it. And you do that by changing the ranged range, which is inside the ranged options. Right at the top we have accuracy. This is their shot accuracy. That's explanatory. It's percentage. By default it's 90%. So technically 90% of the time they can hit you with their attack. Range is the distance at which they will do ranged attacks. So if I had their aggro range at 20, their current ranged range is 15. Until they got within 15 blocks of you, they would use ranged. And then they would start using melee. Fire delay, this is like melee, the melee speed. This is the amount of time between each shot. Delay variance, so if we set this fire delay down to 1, and then set the delay variance to 2, the variance is how different this fire delay can be. So with this, you can add these two values together. So the fire delay can be anywhere between 1, because that's the minimum, and 3 right now, because I have mine set to 2. So that's how many seconds in between each shot it can be right now. Fire rate is just another little option within that affects it a little bit more. It's almost like a multiplier for the speed.
I see.
But I normally leave that at 5 because it doesn't affect it too much. What is an important one to do is burst count. So if you're having something use a gun, you're going to want to use burst count most likely, because that's the number of projectiles it'll launch in a single shot or in succession. So if basically one pull of the trigger right now by default would do 1, if I changed the 3 and it was using a bow, one pull of the drawstring it would launch 3 consecutive arrows, and then the delay would start.
Okay, so it would be better to do a rapid fire effect using that option rather than messing with the delay and just making the delay very short.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody who's played a like a Call of Duty game, the burst count is basically if you have it set to 1, it's a single fire gun. If you have it set to 3, it's a burst fire, standard burst fire. If you have it set to 5, you're getting a little bit up there. If you want something to be automatic, or in essence automatic, you decrease the fire delay as low as you can, decrease the variance because you can set that to 0, and then set the burst count really high. It'll send out a constant stream of ammunition. Problem with that is those are then rendered items on the ground. It starts to cause lag. Sound effects. This one, it's whatever sound you want the gun to make, or the ranged weapon to make. So by default it's random bow. You click on there, it goes into any of them. You can, any of the mods that it detects that have sounds, you can pick. So we have Pixelmon installed. So I can actually come in here and select any of the Pixelmon sounds. I could have it sound like a Vulpix when it shoots. I have my volume turned off, so it's not annoying anybody. But if I were to make him start doing ranged attacks every time he shot, it would sound like the Vulpix from Pixelmon.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Alright, I'm going to set that. Go ahead and exit out of that. Next we have projectile types. This is where you basically enchant your bow or your ranged weapon. We have power, which is the actual amount of power given to the bow. This is basically the melee strength of the bow. So right now it's going to do 2 hearts worth of damage or 4 health points. The punch, it's basically the knockback, how far it knocks you back. We have this option over here right next to punch that's 2D. You can change that to 3D and it'll make the projectile 3D, and you can change the setting on whether it spins and whether it sticks into things. I haven't played with that too much. I try and reduce my use of 3D stuff because it does cause lag in both single and multiplayer. Size. Self-explanatory, it's how big your projectile is. So if we were using an arrow right now, 5 would be the standard size for the arrow. Just like if you pulled back a bow, shot off an arrow, that's how big it would be. We can decrease this so it's smaller. That can be used if you want stealth characters, or if you have, say, a character that uses a blowgun and you just want to use the arrow texture, set it to 1. Really tiny arrow, basically like a dart. Or you can set it really big and have it be an all-powerful creature. Speed. This is how fast your projectile flies. This is nothing more than something that you set. The faster it is, the harder it's going to be to dodge. That simple. The slower it is, it can be more of an effect than anything else. Has gravity. This one is actually pretty interesting because this will add bullet dynamics to it, where once it's shot, if you have gravity on, it will actually drop. If not, it'll be a steady flat shot until it hits something. If it doesn't have gravity, you can adjust the speed of it, which is constant or accelerate. So once it's shot, if it's on accelerate, it'll gradually pick up speed and get faster. If it's on constant, it'll stay at the same speed that you have set. If it is on accelerate, the speed that you have set is the starting speed. Alright, so we're going to put gravity back on yes. Explodes. Be very careful with this. I personally do not remember whether or not it'll blow up environments. And I don't really want to test because we are on a server that we're doing work on, and I don't want to blow anything up. But you can change the size of the explosion if you have it on. There's 4 sizes: none, small, medium, and large. Then you can turn off the explosion completely. Effect. This is the exact same thing as the melee effects, so I'm not going to go over those again except just to show you where they are, and that they are the same. They even have the amplification. Trail type. This is basically particles that you can attach to your projectile. So we have smoke, portal. Smoke is the same effect that you get off of a fire. Portal is from the one from the nether portal. Redstone is the same as the redstone particles for active redstone. We have lightning, which I've never used. We have large smoke, which is basically a more active version of the first smoke. We have magic, which is actually a really interesting effect. It's got they're asterisks and stars, but they come off of it when it's flying. Enchant, the same particles that come off of an enchantment table is what is produced with the enchant trail type. Then you have none. And then you can either tell it to glow or not glow, and that's just a simple cosmetic effect. Alright, and then to wrap this all up, we'll go ahead and exit out of that and get into resistance. This is pretty self-explanatory again. This is the amount, a modifier for how much these knockback arrow and knockback ranged and melee damage will affect it. So if you set this up to 100, it has 100% resistance, basically meaning it won't be affected by it. If you want something that's like a tank, a guy that's big like a tank, isn't going to be knocked back, you want to put this knockback up at 100. If you want a little puny guy that gets flung all over the place, set it to -100, and everything will be doubled for that. Arrow and melee, you can have a mob or NPC that is completely resistant to either arrow or melee damage or both. And then the only thing that should be able to affect them is environmental damage like lava and fire, if depending on your settings, or enchantment damage. Those should still affect it even if these are cranked all the way up. And if you want something to be weak against, say, arrows, just crank that down below 0. And then 0's default, it'll do the regular damage that it's supposed to, or the knockback will have the regular effect that it's supposed to. Alright, I think I covered everything. Between the last video and this video, I've covered everything in the stats tab. Now, I apologize, this one ran a little bit long, but I decided to cover both the combat and the other options all in one video. Is there anything you think I missed?
Did you go over on the projectile the 2D versus 3D options?
I did.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure.
The 3D just gives it the options to spin and to stick to things.
Great.
All right.
Cool.
Again, we'll give a thank you to Esfernari here for hopping in and helping us. And we can see he's been editing his NPC a little bit.
He's neurified.
Neurified?
Yeah.
All right, so we got 2 NPCs now. They're both hostile, I see. But with that, we'll head on out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Trust and Lies, out.